Okay, well, now I got it back. I guess it crashed. So I was looking here at this is this back. Let's see, where's the ranch? There's the ranch. So this is the back 80 acres. And I remember one time I walked all the way up. I think I walked all the way up to right here because I remember there were trees. That was early on when I first was there, so that was early 80s. But it's interesting because I remember that, oh, and she had pictures of it. I never saved any of them, but this was a fire scar that I don't know how it started, but that this caught on fire. It's interesting how it changes the landscape. But they had the helicopter was coming in, and of course this was just open field at this point, somewhere over here, probably this area here, and was going up and dousing the flames right there. And unfortunately, I can't back off of this enough to see, because Bud had called this Snoopy Hill, because when you looked at it, it looked like Snoopy lying on top of the doghouse, but I can't see the image of it from this vantage point. So I'm not sure. This actually almost looks like it was burn scar as well as up in here. I don't know, maybe I'm reading that wrong, but I do know there was a fire that happened, and I do believe that that's what that is right there. So going back down, moving over. There it is right there. Closing back up. So you can see how sharp that hill was right there. They never had anybody that was on that. You can see all the huge houses that grew up around it. There we go. This tree right here was where am I? There it is. This tree right here was planted by Jay Hoover, and he planted that when she sold Aladdin's Comet to Australia. So it was kind of his memory tree. And then I remember Dennis Colbath and his partner Steve Pace came in here and did all beautiful landscaping in here, which it's sad that that all disappeared. Because these are definitely images after she had passed away, because the barn's gone. So I don't know what happened to that landscaping. It was quite beautiful. Dennis Colbath is no longer with us, which is sad. But I do remember him well. I remember one time I was not living on the ranch, and the beautiful gray Bayshaw daughter, Bay, no, it wasn't. It was the chestnut. Yeah, Bay Embraceable. It was her first foal, and her and her sister, Bay Embrace Me, were very high-strung, particular mares. And I was not living on the property, and I got the call, and Lorraine told me she was foaling, so I came racing back to the property. It was dark, probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I drove right up here and parked right in front of the workshop. And the birthing was fine, the baby was fine, but she was not letting the baby nurse. And we tried and tried and tried, and then the mare kicked me. So we kind of had enough at that point. So she called Corey, who was living in Pleasanton, and he drove out, but it was dawn, and dawn was coming up, obviously from the east, and as the sun was shining down, and he's coming up the hill in his big diesel truck, he he got blinded, I guess, and he ran right into the back of my car. I didn't even hear it, but I was in the barn and Bud came in and he said, "What car was I driving? Was it the little green car? Did I just get the little green car?" "Yeah, I'll bet you I did." It was my little green Dodge Spirit, and I had just gotten this car. It was used, but I'd just gotten it. And Bud came in to the barn, and I was in the foaling stall, and he said, "Corey just hit your car." "Yeah, okay, Bud. Yeah, sure. Okay, haha." And he goes, "No, Corey just hit your car." "Oh, okay, Bud. Yeah, okay, fine." He goes, "No, really, seriously, Corey just hit your car." I'm like, "What?" And I came out and it had like destroyed the back of my bumper and the light, and it was crazy. And then what was interesting as time marched forward, that I ended up buying that truck off of Corey and then remembered that this had to have been the truck that had hit my car, which is just, it's just so funny how time goes. And this right here, the back porch that Lorraine would come out and sit because she could see down to the arena, and until these trees got really big, but she could see me working horses in the arena. But I always appreciated that as I was working, that she would check up on me, and she would do that by coming to the back and give a yoo-hoo, and I would yoo-hoo back to her. And I always appreciated that, she was keeping track of my safety to make sure everything was going fine. And she knew obviously that I was down there working because I was a worker and I worked. So that was always nice to know that she was making sure I was okay. So I'm going to do this really quick. Zoom in and then let it go. Wait, not that way. Wait. Not there. Okay, now I gotta go here. I'm not sure if this is gonna get the right view. So there's the driveway. Nah, this is not gonna give the right view, so hold on a sec. I think I gotta be more there. Okay, now do it. There and there. So there's the little apartment that I stayed in. Where's my arrow? Oh, there it is. The hill that I walked up so many times. There's a good view of the barn and all the pastures. Paddocks, I guess. We called them pastures. And see, a horse hasn't been there in a while with all the grass that grew. I love that barn. I loved it especially when I first worked for her and it was green with white trim. I just thought it was so beautiful. And all these trees right here, Jay Hoover planted those. And I love these pepper trees. You see a lot of pepper trees down in the Bay Area. They actually do smell peppery, hence the name. Why is that not moving? Is it moving? Very slowly moving. Again, this is the Ben Rassill here. And Lorraine would have her little golf cart parked there and would go driving up and down the property. This little red maple tree growing up through the rafters of the car shelter. all gone now. They put 2 houses on this 3 acres. And this little workshop here, Bud built. This pump house was there originally. It's hard to imagine, but at one point in time, when I went back to work for Lorraine, I want to see if I can get the Kalani barn down here. I not only was working for her, but she allowed me to train oh, there it is right there. Come around again. She allowed me to have outside training horses. And so Lorraine had her 10 or 12, and we had these outside training horses, and we had 35 horses on this property. And I can't imagine how we did that. But it made me think of how, even though this was only 3 acres, the people that owned it made it seem so much larger than it was. It truly was one of the most paradise-like places that I had in my entire life. Just because of the people that were involved with it. I miss her and Bud like crazy. This was where the old barn was at, over here. I knew every tree on that property. Bud probably put that tarp up there on the roof. There, you can kind of see the old Kalani barn right there. Right there. Oh, just as an aside, because it was so traumatic. Well, there's a couple things. That concrete wall went from there up to where the apartment was at. You can't see it because of that. But there was a tree, and this was so like me. There was a pine tree that was right on the property line, and Lorraine would not let them chop it down. And so they had to build the wall up to the tree and to the other side of the tree. And it just reminded me when I was a kid, a little kid, like 8, 9, maybe 10 years old, and they were probably rightfully thinning out dead trees in this portion of the park. And I just had a fit about it, that they were cutting down the tree. And I was standing in the way of this tractor, and I just refused to get out of the way. And my bike was on the ground, and he had a bucket of dirt in the tractor bucket. And he started to shake it on top of my bike, like warning me that he was going to dump all of this dirt on my bike. And I stood there long enough that he did it a couple of times, and I realized I better get my bike, or I wasn't going to have a bike. But defiant little 10-year-old. Oh, nothing much has changed. But I was going to point out that here, when they built these houses here, you can barely see it because it was right in here. There was this another 200-year-old oak tree, and it was just beautiful. And of course, they landscaped all around it, so there's all this water all the time for all this landscaping. Well, I guess all that water, of course, 200-year-old oak trees growing out in the wilderness aren't used to getting that much water, and it started to sicken the tree. And I will give credit to the fact that these people spent a lot of money trying to save the tree, but eventually it died or was dying. There was no hope of saving it. And I remember that I was standing here in the arena and I was watching them chopping this tree, and there was like a limb that was here. It looked like they were chopping off an arm. And I just stood there and I was crying. Nobody was around. And it just was horrible. It was horrible to see that this thing that lasted for so long was destroyed because of quote unquote progress that I hated. Still hate. I hate when they destroy the things that were. And yet that is the way of the world. Is it not? Not that I agree with it. But I'm a country girl. So that's pretty much it. It's all gone.